What is up, guys? Illinois Outdoorsman, and today we are talking about fishing line, so stay tuned. What is up, guys? Obviously, as you guys saw, we're talking about fishing line today. I've only got 3 spools here, but there's millions of different types of fishing line, or at least different brands. Everybody's got their own, and something's great and special about it, but they all break down. They're all the same. All the monos are the same. All the fluorocarbons are the same. All the braids are the same. Just brands is all it is, you guys. So we're going to go over each type of line, and we're going to give you the pros and cons on all of them and why I use what I use. So here we go. First up, you guys, this is just tri-lane monofilament. This is 12-pound easy smooth cast, XL smooth cast. Well, this is a 300-yard spool. You guys, Walmart makes their own brand of fishing line that's just as good as this. It's monofilament. Obviously, if Walmart makes it, it's cheap. That's one of the things on my list. I have my list of stuff here just to make sure I don't miss anything, you guys. So, monofilament, it's cheap. Cheap. It floats. Well, it floats. It doesn't technically float. It actually absorbs water, but it sinks at a super slow rate. So when you bust off your line, that's why you still see your line floating on the water when you use mono. It's going to take a little bit, but it will sink. You will lose that line. So if you snapped off a lure and you're going to use the line to try and get it back, make sure you get a hold of it because it's going to go away. It stretches. Monofilament stretches. That's why a lot of guys will choose to use braid or fluorocarbon over mono just because of the amount of stretch. But with that stretch and it being cheap, also it makes it a lot easier to handle. You do get line memory out of it, but it makes it easier to handle. You can cast it further, and it's not friendly and not NOT, not as in KNOT, when you tie a knot to your lure, your hook, what have you. This you can tie just about any knot. Honestly, my first fishing knot was the old crisscross through like 12 times when I was a kid. That's what I used. Now I use a Palomar knot for almost everything. But yeah, it's cheap, you guys. Cheap, it does the job. It's great for little stuff where you're not worried about stretch. You're not getting around vegetation, because vegetation, trees, stuff like that is going to tear it up. It's not very abrasive resistant at all, which is part of the reason why it's cheap. So, great starter line though. Ooh, excuse me, guys. It will get you out on the water and get you fishing, and I do use this. I use it with crankbaits just because there is some stretch, so you can use a little bit of stiffer rod and make up for it with your fishing line. Ideally, you would want to make up for it with your rod and the action of your rod, not your fishing line, because you run the risk of popping that line and snapping it, and then you're done. So, we're going to move on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on monofilament. It's cheap, easy line to manage, great for the beginner fisherman, you guys. It's amazing for it. But we're going to move on. Fluorocarbon. If you look at the back of this, is Berkeley's Vanish in 20-pound. The only reason I got 20-pound is this was $9.84, and everything below that weight-wise was $12.84 at Walmart. Why, I don't know. So we got the 20-pound fluorocarbon. But if you look at the back of this, it'll give you a little guide on how to tie the tri-lane knot, and it gives you a little bit of information about it in English, Spanish. Stronger, smoother, more flexible, remains clear. Fluorocarbon claims, for the most part, it does not stretch, which is actually a false claim. It does stretch. It just takes such a tremendous amount of force to stretch it that it's virtually no stretch. You as a human being ripping back on a fish, you're not going to stretch it. It takes so much force to stretch that it's not actually going to stretch on you while you're fishing with it. So that's why they tell you it's no stretch. It's extremely sensitive. This fluorocarbon, super sensitive. You're going to feel everything. Mono is sensitive. This takes it to a whole nother level, you guys. Great for finesse fishing. You feel everything. Every little peck. You're going to feel a bluegill peck at your lure. You're going to feel that bass come up and just pick it up. But they call it, this one they call Vanish for a reason. A lot of fishing lines, it doesn't matter, braid, mono, fluorocarbon, anything like that, you're going to be able to, your characteristics change in the water as opposed to outside of water. So if you were to look at a strand of this monofilament outside the water, it's going to be super hard to see. In the water, you're going to be able to see it. I almost called it carbon fiber. I don't know why. Fluorocarbon. Well, let's go get it together. Fluorocarbon is virtually invisible, and that remains the same underwater. It acts the same underwater as it does outside of water. So wet, dry, it acts the same. It is super hard to see. You're not going to be able to see it. There's a little strand of it, the tag end sticking out right there. With that acting the same wet or dry, this is waterproof, not just water resistant. Monofilament's water resistant. It's still going to absorb water. This is waterproof. It will not absorb water. Super abrasive resistant at that. It's stiffer than mono, so you're going to get a little bit more memory out of it, but not much. Your knot failure, K-N-O-T, knot failure, is substantially higher than that with mono, because if you do not wet your line, that's why you see fishermen put that fishing lure in their mouth, they're getting that line wet. If you do not wet that line, the friction of it pulling against it in itself as you clench that knot will break it. You will have a almost 100% guaranteed failure rate. Great leader material. I keep a little bitty, like 125 yard spool in the cup holder of my kayak, 4 liters for this. It pairs great with braided line, you guys. Overall, I use this, kids fishing poles, stuff like that. I have almost completely phased out using monofilament. I use fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon and braid, that's pretty much all I use, because I don't want the stretch. They're so much better over monofilament, you guys. That's all I can say about that. They're better than monofilament. Monofilament's great for a beginner, which is why I use it with the kids. It's cheap. But this stuff, I don't want to lose my lures. I spend a lot of money. You can ask my wife. I spend a lot of money on fishing stuff. I spent $70 today at Walmart on just fishing stuff. So that included the fishing line here. But last, but certainly not least, and by far my favorite, is braided line. You guys, I don't know how well you can see it in there. Braided line is almost like kite string, pretty much is what my dad calls it. Is what I call it, kite string. This is the easy braid stuff, but it's kite string. Sorry guys, I don't know what I got. Something going on with my throat and sinuses and yeah. But with braid, there is no stretch. 0 line stretch. It is super abrasive resistant. It's going to cut through vegetation. That's why you see a lot of guys throw braid with heavy vegetation, because the line just cuts through it. It floats, which makes it great for topwater frogs, stuff like that, topwater lures, because the line floats. It doesn't want to pull that down. Fluorocarbon sinks. I don't think I touched on that. Fluorocarbon sinks, so a finesse rig, stuff like that, your Ned rig, that's going to help keep the head down. That line's not going to want to float up, so it's going to let it come down. Sinks. Makes a great leader for braided stuff, because it is abrasive resistant, so if you're pitching worms into vegetation, stuff like that, along trees, everything else, it's great for that. This is where it's at though. I love this. You can only use certain knots with this. Some knots are going to fail at a real high rate because of the way the composition of the line is. Like I said, a Palomar knot, I use it for everything. I use it fluorocarbon, monofilament, braid. It's a great knot to learn. It's super easy to tie, and once you figure out how to tie it, you're off to the races. You can tie anything with it. If you get a backlash with this, you just as well cut all the line off your reel and start over, because it is almost guaranteed you're not getting it out. It is so hard to get a backlash out with braided line. It's what scares a lot of people away from it. Yeah, if those of you guys don't know what a backlash is and have never casted a bait casting reel, go cast a bait casting reel, and that will be what you get as backlash. It's brutal. YouTube it. Look up videos, pictures of it. They're brutal. They're a pain in the butt. They call them bird's nest, rat's nest, backlash. No line. Rod selection with this stuff is important though, you guys, because there is no stretch. If you go to hammer home that hook like you would with monofilament or even fluorocarbon, especially mono, you get that line stretch. That line stretch takes away some of that jerk out of your rod set. You set that hook. This will not. You will rip the lips off of a fish. I promise you, I've done it before. I have ripped into a 8-ounce bass that took a worm like it was a 14-pounder, and all I got back was a partial set of lips on a hook, and that was it. So you guys do need to pay attention to how you set the hook with it. Rod selection is important. If you get a little bit softer rod, it's going to make up a little bit for that no stretch and that just enough give to where you're not going to rip a giant hole through this fish's mouth, but still get that hook in there, still set that hook. But yeah, you guys, stupid. That's all I got. I mean, it's fishing line, you guys. What's to it, right? There's no science behind it. I promise you there's science behind it, and all of these lines serve their purpose, and they serve it extremely well, but some are more suited for others, are more suited better than others. Get it together, Dennis. Come on. So, which one do you guys prefer? Mono, fluorocarbon, braid? Drop it in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys prefer. Which one do you guys prefer? What's your favorite fishing line? What's your go-to? Drop it in the comments down below, you guys. Make sure you guys, if you aren't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you guys can get in on all this awesome information that I'm trying to give you, trying to preach it to you guys, so you guys can learn, so we can all learn together. I'm dropping everything. If you guys want to share a piece of information about, in this video, fishing line, or in the last video, fishing lures, or whatever, drop it in the comments down below. Share that information with the world, everybody. Let's all learn together. Let's all become better fishermen, better outdoorsmen and women. And let's keep on, you guys. Joe Dirt. But if you guys, on a serious note, if you guys aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that little bell. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter at IL_outdoorsman. And yeah, you guys, until next time, I will see you out there.